I'm continuing to shine light on absolute heroes of music, guys like Peter Rowan and Bill Keith, who learned under the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe, or cats like Calvin Keyes and Ernie Ellie, who played the R&B circuit with Ray Charles. Maybe it's bassist Norbert Putnam riffing what it was like to play in the studio with an original rocker like Elvis Presley, or Peter Erskine's countless tales from his relentless tours with Stan Kenton. I'm trying to stretch the lineage of American music through stories of wisdom from those who learned from the masters. My shows continue to bridge the musical gap between my elders and my contemporaries. My guest today is an example of someone who is determined to pass the music and his wisdom on to current and future generations of authentic seekers. He grew up in the bastion of Florida, where cats like Les Dudek and Tom Petty and Butch Trucks and so many other cats came from, and ultimately created a regional sound down there. And he's gone on to really have a sustainable and luminary career as a musician, for the most part playing music that he loves to play and being able to sing for his supper doing it. Reese Wynans, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, hey, Jake. I'm so glad to be able to participate with your program. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, it's great, man. It's such an honor to have you. You know, I wasn't expecting, but now that we're here, this morning, I kind of wanted you to talk to the audience, especially for my generation at 46 and younger generations. If you could talk about your relationship and the kind of person that Berry Oakley was.
Well, sure, I could do that. Barry, well, let me just give you a little background.
Go ahead, man. Yeah, please, take away.
First, and I had, like you say, I grew up in the bastions of Florida. I went to attended Florida State University, and that's when I first started playing in bands. I bought a Wurlitzer electric piano and started playing in a frat party band, and was just having a great time. The music was fun to play, and we did all kinds of covers, no originals, but just covers like "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks, and some early Stone stuff, some Rascals, things that were popular back in this is talking about 1967.
Sure.
So that was such a good time. I really wanted to continue and expand upon playing the music that I really liked, and they didn't really offer it at Florida State at that time. At Florida State, you were either a classical guy or a jazz guy, and as far as playing the music of the day, really wasn't offered at college at that time.
Well, I want to ask you. This is so.
I determined that I knew everything that they were going to teach me, so I left college and started playing immediately started playing in the local bands in the Sarasota area where I lived. And a couple of the bands I played with, Joe Bill and the Playboys, the Illusions, had a regular gig at the Sarasota Lanes bowling alley where we played 6 nights a week. And eventually I got a job out at Ramon's father's nightclub. Ramon was our drummer. Ramon Sotolongo, his dad owned a club called the Toro Club, and we put a band together in there called I'll think of the name of that band. But it was we had a soul singer, and we had a 4-piece band. A guy named Larry Reinhardt, I always called him Rhino, was our guitar player, and we had a drummer named Ronnie Walshaw. And not a drummer, a bass player, Ronnie Walsh, and the drummer was Ramon, whose dad owned the club. So Ronnie, the bass player, had got in trouble with the non-payment of child support, and had to, I think had to go to jail for a little while. We were kind of looking for a bass player, and this guy who was new to Sarasota at that time, nobody really knew him, but he could really play. His name was Berry Oakley.
Oh my God! He
just showed up.
This is
I think he had been working. He mentioned with Tommy Rowe and the Roman. I believe that's what I remember him saying. And it didn't take us long to realize that he was a great bass player, and but he had this sort of a West Coast mentality, which was unusual for all of us Southern guys. He wanted to take the songs and make something out of them. He wanted to stretch them out, play them a little slower, and add some jam sections to the songs, and try to make a little bit more out of them. And so we had a blast doing that. And it was really great to get to know Berry Oakley. At that time, he was just a fun guy. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the first marijuana cigarette I ever smoked was with Berry Oakley.
Oh, this is so. I knew that this was going to reveal some amazing story. I mean, I have to ask you a question though. You're the first cat I have ever talked to, and I mean, the way you described it is fascinating. You said, like at Florida State, it was either you were classical, but there was actually a jazz department. You were really not necessarily somebody who was improvising at that point. You were just into the hits of the pop music of the day, which was actually incredible music, like the Rascals and stuff. And there was no place. I don't think there's ever been a place for pop music on campus, has there?
Well, there may be these days.
Right.
I mean, you hear a lot of my contemporaries who are actually teaching at universities these days, and so they're offering the history of American music now,
right,
which is the music that I grew up with playing and listening to. So now that's offered in the universities around Nashville area where I live now. They not only teach music, they teach you how to write charts for music. They teach you how to come in. You can learn how to be a record producer, an engineer, and learn how to record recording techniques. And they teach you how to, like I said, write charts and how to play in the studio, where it's different playing in the studio than it is playing live. And so nowadays there is all that is available. And of course, with the continuing rise of technology, there's a whole new things to learn about all how to use the technology, how to use all the new innovations for keyboards and for recording and everything. So that is all standard in any university that teaches. Has any kind of reputable music department. I think it is, at least to my knowledge. That's what's offered now. In those days, in the 60s, there was nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. Yeah. You could be in the stage band, the university stage band, or you could study the classical music. And that really, for me now, I kind of, right across the street from Florida State University, there's another university called Florida A&M University, which is one of the historic black colleges in the country, and over there they had a club where they had a little band that was playing sort of what we like to call soul music. And I would take I had a friend who showed me this place and took me over there. But I took my Wurlitzer electric piano. I would go over there and sit in with them, and we would play, and and so I had a blast doing that. So in a way, my college education really was playing the Wurlitzer electric piano, learning the American songbook, from soul music to the British invasion, and all that music that was so important to all of us in those days.
Reese, I have to. This is so beautiful. I have to believe somewhere. I mean, maybe it wasn't. Maybe you weren't ensconced or you crazy about bebop, but were you influenced by guys like Wynton Kelly and other piano players? Because like you talk about Berry and probably more of a blues, funk, soul bag stretching out. It seems to me like you always had the ability to sort of leave the head of the tune and go out. I mean, maybe not like Herbie Hancock, but did you have sort of jazz adjacent leanings at all?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jake. For me personally, starting when I first met Berry Oakley, I wasn't very much of a player. I had just started playing in bands. and all this music was new to me.
Right.
Before then, my background was the high school stage band, and then playing classical music, which is what I studied all my life. And I really liked. My father was a piano player. He liked to play stride piano, so I developed a style of stride piano from the time I was young. But I never knew anything. I didn't even know what the blues was by the time I entered college. That kind of music was not really allowed in my house. So all this the top 40 radio, the soul music, the blues, about where all where the top 40 songs came from, where they're originally, the way they were recorded originally, is a lot of them were hits for sort of unknown black artists.
Absolutely.
And big hits for white artists at that time.
That's right. Huge. The payola scandal. Yeah.
So it was really fun. It was interesting to me to delve into where all this music was coming from. And so I listened to everybody, and I developed my own style, and one of the people I listened to a lot was this organ player named Jimmy Smith.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was great, and I listened to this piano player named Oscar Peterson. Both of them were fantastic jazz artists, and of course way beyond my talent. But I kind of realized that you could take these simple songs and go somewhere with them, and so I started doing that in my own sort of simple-minded way, and it's kind of just worked my way through it. And you got to start somewhere, and you see where it goes.
Oh, I love it.
And for me, it took me to where I could kind of go somewhere with these songs and with these blues songs. And I could tell you, Berry Oakley and Dickie Betts, who I met later on, were hugely influential to me as far as showing me and allowing me to learn and express myself in those kind of situations.
So you really came from a house. A lot of musicians that I've talked to, musicians of color as well. The blues and boogie woogie wasn't allowed in their house, so they had to play it or sneak it in when their folks weren't around and stuff like that. I mean, it was considered in some way the devil's music, and I just, Mike,
you're exactly right.
Yeah, no. Different
then,
I mean, you guys weren't playing like when Berry walked into that club and he started to play. Can you talk about like the as best you can in words, how your vocabulary music grew, because you weren't playing like Thelonious Monk tunes. I mean, you were going hard, but yet you by your own account say that you were pretty limited in your vocabulary at that time. I mean, how did it grow from that experience with him and then later with Dickie?
Well, when I first met Berry, which is when I was in my early 20s, excuse me, in my early 20s, playing in the local bands in the Sarasota area, I had for my equipment, I had a Wurlitzer electric piano, and I had just bought a Hammond organ, small organ. I think it was an L100 or M100, something like that. I had the split keyboards, and I was just starting to learn how to play organ. We were doing soul songs. We were doing like "Hold On, I'm Coming," and the standard songs of the day, the Creedence Clearwater kind of songs.
Booker T,
Booker T. We would do that kind of stuff,
sure.
and just the songs that Rhino liked, and the songs that Bobby, our singer, liked, and sweet soul music. I mean that sort of thing. And they were great fun to play. We worked up a song called Satisfaction by the Stones, and we decided we were going to make it into a soul song, and kind of gave it a different kind of a groove, and that was a lot of fun. And that was Barry's idea to do that. I can't say it enough that I was not really an experienced player back then. I was just getting started. A lot of guys these days, they're playing in bands and professional players by the time they're 14 years old. The guy I work with right now, Joe Bonamassa, he was already proficient guitar player and in a covered band at the age of 14. When I was 14, I didn't really know what was going on. It took me a little bit longer to get started than him. So, like I said, I was out of college. I was 18 or 19 years old, and just learning how to play and just having a great time. Barry turned me on to people like the Paul Butterfield Blues Band.
Right.
I was not familiar with them. People like the Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead and those West Coast bands and that West Coast sound. He really liked those sort of jammy kind of early psychedelia California bands.
Yeah.
Spirit. He liked those guys a lot. And so he was very influential to me. I was still very much learning how to play, but we hit it off really great right from the very start. And it helped that Ron was in the band because I'd worked with him for a couple of years at that point, and that guy was just a nut, man. He was just the greatest guy. Went on to have a nice career as well.
You talking about Rhino?
Larry Reinhardt, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, you were talking about technology before, and it's sort of, I wanted to ask you about, like as you've made your way through and, figured out your sound, when you were playing for a long time, your generation was really playing through pretty antiquated PA systems. It was not nearly the technology that we have today. And that, that may be better or worse, but the point is that you really had to sonically expand your sound through soul and through physicality. You couldn't do it through amplification. And I wonder if you could talk about if you feel like that was one of the reasons or how you found your own individual voice. And what I'm leading towards is just in jazz in general or in any genre. I mean, I just think you go back to, God, I mean, let's just go back to, Jorma Kaukonen, Jerry Garcia, Dwayne Allman. I mean, in jazz, every drummer had their own individual sound. I just remember David Garibaldi from Tower of Power being like, he told me, he's like, if somebody came up to me and said, you sounded great, you sounded just like Sam Lay, he'd want to slit his wrists. And so it was like this, everyone wanted to have their own individual sound, whereas today I hear a lot of homogenization of sound. It's hard for me to tell who people are. And I just wonder if you can harken back to that time when you really couldn't rely on the technology, but more about your soul and physicality, and if that lent itself to you finding your own individual voice.
Well, Jake, for me, you're right about the limitations of the technology in those days. If I remember right, we didn't have any monitors on stage, which monitors is our speakers on stage with a mixer that you use to hear the other people in the band. It really helps for people on stage so we can hear what's going on stage. These days, everybody has their own mixes going on, and you could hear everything that everybody is playing. In those days, there were no monitors. You played what you played, and you wanted to hear everybody else, so you played a little quieter so you could hear what they were doing. And then it was your turn to play. You turned up and played a little louder. They would be quiet so they could hear what you were doing. So it was like a dialogue going on stage amongst the musicians, and the singers were just, they could not, I mean, some of those guys would just hear their voice coming back. Some of them could not hear their voice coming back.
Right.
And that's why you see some singers who would hold their one hand up to one ear, so they could hear the sound inside their head, because you could not hear the vocal coming back. As far as developing my own voice, all I could say is the guys on the stage, we were all working together for the same thing. We were all learning. We were all developing our own sounds. I would work off of what they were doing. They would help me. I would help them with what they were doing. They would help me with what I was doing. The way they supported me, kind of pushed me in different directions. It made me want to excel and to continue on and see where I could take it. It was mostly that. It was mostly the working and listening to the musicians that were on stage with me at the time. And it was great to have an innovative, creative bass player like Berry Oakley. I mean, he was somebody who would really, the way he played would make me want to, reach out into new dimensions, into new areas.
No, I would love this. This is so beautiful. Like, he was sort of, he would play around the downbeat a little bit. He'd play around the one and play melodically, so then he would keep stretching he just sort of had that West Coast sort of loose, he didn't lock it in a pop sort of, I don't want to say commercial, but just more straight ahead thing. He had, I think that's the point, is that the music I love the most is, that's another issue in today's world because of, and you saw it, excuse me, in your career with these relentless drum machines and electronics. Rhythm has become so quantized, and back in your day, the rhythm was so round. Elvin Jones, J-Mo and.
Well, let me tell you something else that has changed drastically from those days to today. You listen to the records that are popular today, and it's like you say, the main thing you hear from the band is the drums.
That's right.
In those days, the drums were not featured like that.
They were an accompanist instrument, exactly.
No, what you heard more than the drums was the bass guitar.
Exactly.
The bass, especially for a lot of for the more soulful songs, the bass was the guy who was sort of leading the way, and the drums were there. You could hear the drums, but they were not like super out front the way they are now. And I always thought that did something to me. Was because I wanted to hear the drums a little bit more. So what I would do with those old records is I would want to turn them up so I could feel the beat a little bit more. I don't really feel like that a lot with the modern drum machines. I don't have to turn it up to hear the drums because they're so prevalent in the mix.
That's right. This is the other thing I wanted to ask you about, just sort of a philosophical thing. Even with Bonamassa now, I remember Butch Trucks referring to these clubs that you would play in Florida as psychedelic dungeons. And it wasn't like, I think Bernie Ledden, the Ledden family was from down there. I mean, it's just insane how many ridiculous musicians were from there. But, I wanted you to talk about this concept of and how you do it today, because I think that there's a lot of younger bands, folk, Americana, whatever genre. I mean, genres have also stifled musical vocabulary. I mean, before, you guys were immersed in the Duke Ellington School of Music. It was all music, and then the subjective part was either it was good or bad. I mean, it was not freeform radio, album-oriented radio allowed you to be able to hear symphonic music, electric fusion music, and rock music all in the same half hour on the same station, as you know. So the thing is, the bands that are making dough on the road today are in a lot of ways, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but a lot of them are playing the same set every night. People are paying a lot of money. They want predictability. They want to hear what they know. And I just subscribe to that methodology of, hey, I don't care what the music is, but I want the cats to play beyond what they know. I want them to go for it. And I guess my question is, if you could talk about You know, in Bonamassa, if somebody hits a clam, I know it's hard now because you have all this technology and everything can be perfect and fixed. But has there been an experience in your career, even modern times, where somebody hits a clam and there's so much trust in the band that everybody goes in that direction like a flock of geese? To me, that's the magic of music. Like Miles Davis said, there are no wrong notes. It only's wrong if you stop and freak out. But if the band is all in sync and you trust, that's the most cathartic thing in music.
Well, my experience, my feeling about the way the bands that are playing in concerts today, it's basically a live jukebox. You know, they're just repeating the things that the studio musicians play. They're repeating exactly what's on the record, and that's the experience that the audiences seem to want, is just to recreate the sound of their favorite band. You know, and that's what they're getting a lot. That's not the way we used to do it in the old days.
I want to know about Reese. I want to know about.
With us,
yeah, go ahead.
You would have your records, and then you would have your live performances.
Right.
The live performances is where you took those songs, and this is what we did with them. You know, and we went over here, and we went over there, and we added this, and we added that, and that people don't seem to be as interested in that as far as popular music goes. You know, with Joe Bonamassa, you know, the man has got something like 30, 35 albums that he's put out in his career. Doesn't have any hits at all. So with us, we want to do justice to the songs the way we recorded them. However, there are long sections of just free form playing. And
well, that is beautiful to hear. That is beautiful to hear.
And I'm going to play, and the other soloists are going to join in. And you mentioned bad notes. Well, you know, we don't make hardly. I mean, we don't really get. I mean, we play it. We really go for it, but we're so good at going for it that hardly. I mean, even when you go outside, I'm going to go right outside with you. You know,
totally.
And I mean, because we're professionals. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. He's been doing this a long time. That's what we do. We're not Miles Davis and John Coltrane. We're not going to be. We're not experimenting with electronic sounds and things like that. We're basically playing rock and the blues, and we're playing it probably as good as any rock and blues band that there is right now. But it's loud and energetic and interesting and that's the way that thing is going right now.
Did you feel like well, I mean, yes, you're pros now, going back to Berry and Dickie. I mean, because I just feel like it's not about, like, I remember David Sanborn, rest in peace, was in the studio with Miles, and they were listening back to some, you know, track they had just recorded, and Sanborn's like, I shouldn't have played that note, and Miles is like, yeah, you're right, you should have played it twice. You know, it was like this idea of, you don't want it to be sloppy, but the bottom line is that, to me, extension of vocabulary can occur through some of these quote-unquote sort of missteps or whatever you want. There are no real mistakes. And I just, do you think that Berry and Dickie gave you, at that time in your life, like, your ears really grew the most because they were going to take you out, push you out of your comfort zone, and that's ultimately how you grew a lot?
Absolutely right. And that happened a little bit later in my career. After Dickie and Berry had got together and played for a couple of years around the Sarasota area, they had put a band together called The Second Coming.
Yes.
And they had a house gig up in Jacksonville, where I was still living in Sarasota. Excuse me a second. Now, that band was Dickie Betts on guitar, Larry Reinhardt, my friend Rhino, also on guitar.
Oh, my God.
Berry Oakley on bass, John Meeks on drums, and Dickie's wife at the time, Dale Betts, on keyboards. They would. When Dale came pregnant, she was about to deliver her child. They called. Rhino called me up. Did I want to come up and sit in with them for a while until she came back? So that's how I joined that band. And when she came back after having the baby, and she was our lead singer, but they wanted me to stay on
Yes.
as the organist. But so we would do a lot more Hendrixy kind of stuff, Cream kind of songs, things like that. Still not really
doing originals.
Songs.
Still not a lot of originals. Yeah.
Still doing cover songs, but the original part was this.
Yeah.
Excuse me again. We would take the songs and we would play them like I was born in Chicago.
Yeah.
Paul Butterfield, the great Paul Butterfield song, and we'd play the song, and then we would get to the solo section, and the solo section would all of a sudden would become kind of free form.
I love this.
Everybody would just take it. Barry would be improvising. Dickie would play over it for a little while, and then he would turn. He would point to me. I would take it for a little while. Barry would go in a little bit different direction. I'd follow him, and he'd follow me. We'd take it somewhere, and then Rhino would come in with his psychedelic, wild guitar stuff, and we would go that way for a little while, and then bring it all back to the regular song at the end, and finish the song out. And so each song became kind of his epic little journey. You know, and that's also kind of the way the Allman Brothers did when they got together. They would play the front of the song, and then they would have a beautiful long solo section where we'd just go all over the place. And that's kind of the way we did it in Florida way back in the 60s.
I love this, man. You're making my day,
then.
man. When you it sort of reads in a very simplistic fashion that, you know, sort of the vision that Dwayne had. Either way, that somehow you didn't become part of the Allmans, but as some sort of trade-off, you were hooked up with a gig with Boz Scaggs. Can you explain how you went from, and also, did Second Coming actually have any opportunities to? Is there any live or studio recordings of that band?
You know, that's a good question. I've been looking for some. There's some really primitive kind of recordings of some of the live gigs that we would do free jam sessions on Sundays. We had the 6 nights a week at the Psychedelic Nightclub, and then we would do a jam session out at the park on Sundays.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we could not get
this
it.
This is insane. Psychedelic jams on Sundays, man. I mean, that's it.
Free jams for the people.
Yeah.
You know, so we were a bunch of hippies. You know, so we were just we wanted everybody to participate
Absolutely.
with us. So we were having such a great time. And you know, I was just one more thought about what we were just talking about. So, like you had mentioned the very rich musical heritage of Florida during those times. You know, it turns out Jim Morrison grew up in Clearwater, Florida.
I did not know that.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
That's right.
Were just getting together at the same time we were. They were up in Gainesville. Leonard Skinner was also getting together in Jacksonville when the Second Coming was playing up there. So all these different kinds of musics were going on. Everybody was not improvising and stretching out the way we were.
But I also have to believe that everybody had their own individual sound.
Were way more interested in making hit songs. We would have loved to have a hit song, but that was not the important thing for us.
I love it.
For us, it was where could we take this song? So when you talk about, excuse me again, about the jazz influences, I think we had that when we on the long stretched out improvisational areas of songs that not all of those other bands had. They all had their own thing that they were going for. That was the thing that we had going for us. So now you were talking about.
I mean, it was like this. I mean, you guys were cooking hard. So you, just to put a button on the Second Coming, because when I saw that, it must have been, you guys, it obviously wasn't original tunes, but still, it would be great to hear even primitive recordings of that band. But I was sort of trying to, I did an interview with Chuck Lavelle, and I guess probably more like 5 years, we're going 5 years ahead now, but, Dwayne dies tragically, and then, he wound up going on the road with them, but it just sort of read in whatever I was reading that, the vision of whatever Dwayne's vision of the Almonds was, didn't necessarily fit having two keyboards, but somehow there was a trade-off, and you wound up with Boz.
Okay, I can tell you exactly how that happened, and you had the story just about right.
Yeah.
There's the famous jam session at the house. We all lived in the same house in Jacksonville, and Dwayne, who had been sitting in with our band regularly, as he was a studio musician in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and he would drive through Jacksonville on the way back to visit his family in Daytona Beach. So he would stop by and hang out with us for a couple days and jam with us. And what a musician he was! What a sound he got on that slide! I mean, it was just the most fantastic thing I'd ever seen. Dickie Betts, the best guitar player I had ever heard, was blown away with what Dwayne was doing.
Wow!
It was just crazy how great that guy was. It was unbelievable. So Dwayne wanted to put the Allman Brothers together, and they said everybody who's playing in this band, which was Dwayne, of course, J-Mo, Butch Trucks. We met on the free Sunday jam sessions. He was in a band that was playing down at the Comic Book Club, another local club in Jacksonville, with David Brown and Scott Boyer, and they would all come out and sit in with us. But Dwayne really liked the way Butch played drums, so a lot of times we would get two drum sets and set up on for the jam sessions. It was really a blast. Butch Trucks was there, of course. Berry was there, and I was there. And he said, "This is my band, and if you." That's the way it is. There's not going to be any more about it, except for one thing. My brother is coming from California, and he's going to be our singer, and he's got the songs, and we were just kind of waiting for him to get there. So a couple weeks later, Greg shows up, and he was I guess he was busy with some other band in California. And Dwayne had taken me aside. He said, "Now, Reese, we've got the two drummers, we've got the two guitar players." He said, "I can't see us having two keyboard players. So Greg is going to be our keyboard player and singer in the band." I said, "Well, I get that, and I totally understand that. I'll miss playing with you, but I know what you guys have going on here, and it's going to be a beautiful thing." So I was not invited to join the Allman Brothers. I ended up kind of breaking our band up. So at that time, I moved back to Sarasota and started playing in the local bands back there again with Rhino and some of the other guys who were around. The Allman Brothers ended up going up to Macon. And they had a tough time up there. Have you read anything about the early days of the Allman Brothers?
Dude, I want to be clear about something.
Rugged. They had no money. They had no nothing up there. It was just difficult. And I'll tell you what got them going. I mean, they had this incredible musicianship and this camaraderie, because they just loved the way the band was sounding. But they started doing the same thing we did in Jacksonville, which is having free shows on Sunday at the park, except the park was in Atlanta. So they would go up to Atlanta and play free shows at the park, and they ended up getting thousands of people who would come out to see him, and that's really, I think, what put him on the map.
Wow.
As much as anything.
Wow, I didn't know.
And
So I mean, go
a
ahead.
couple of months after I left the band, Dwayne gave me a call. He said he had just finished recording this album with this new artist called Boz Scaggs, and it was the Loan Me a Dime record. And Boz was putting a band together, and Dwayne had recommended they hire me, and so that's how.
Okay, so
relocating to San Francisco to play with Boz Scaggs. That's how that happened.
All right, Reese Wynans, you just took me to Never Everland. My my memory on my recorder is about to run out. Can we do set 2 tomorrow at this time at the same time?
Sure thing.
All right. Yeah.
Sure thing, Jake.
So
we'll
good.
To be continued then.
Yo, man. Honestly, you dropped. It was such a great hang, man. Have a beautiful day, man.
All right, you too, Jake. Good talking to you.
Be cool.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Had a great time with this cat yesterday, just breaking down the early part of his career, and I don't know. We'll do as many sessions as we need. Reese Wynans, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, how you doing today? I didn't expect to be doing a part 2, but I'm happy to continue the saga. So,
well, it's you've had a pretty amazing career, and there's always parts to it that need to be explored further. And I guess I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about. Did you move out to Marin County when you joined Boz, or I mean when you played with him?
Well, when I first moved to San Francisco, I think it was in 1971, wow. To work with Boz. I was living at the Swiss American Hotel in Gary Street in North Beach, famous for, I believe it's famous for not only being down the street from the first topless bar in the country, but also the Jazz Workshop was just right down the street. And I think right there at the Swiss American Hotel is where Lenny Bruce came to his end.
You're exactly right. No, the Carol Doda was up the street, the topless bar. Yep, that's right. That is unbelievable.
So I lived there for a short amount of time. When my wife came out to join me, we looked around for an apartment up in Mill Valley, and we lived in a place called Tamalpais Valley, and we moved on up farther north, closer to San Rafael. But so yeah, she liked it up there in that part of the world. She liked being out of the city.
Can I ask you about this? Is fascinating because were you able to? I mean, you recorded on that "Loan Me a Dime" record, which is. But then after that, was that recorded in New York, in Atlantic? Where was that? Because there were, if memory serves, there were, a lot of cats, kind of, even Muscle Shoals cats on that record.
They did it in Muscle Shoals.
They did it in Muscle Shoals.
Dwayne played on it in Muscle Shoals when he was a studio musician at Muscle Shoals, and it's all Muscle Shoals people. I did not play on that record. When I joined Boz's band, when we would play the local clubs in San Francisco, the Matrix, the Keystone Corners, the Fillmore, Mandrakes over at Berkeley, those types of places, the local music joints. We were playing mostly songs from his debut record, which was "Loan Me a Dime."
Wow, this is so beautiful. So then, that's right. So then Dwayne, he was looking for a keyboard player, and Dwayne's like, "Hey, Reese, you may want to check him out." Then you move out there. So I want to be clear. This is so. Are you telling me that that you were playing with the late great Mel Martin on horn?
No.
Who was in that working? Because I mean, that's Boz had not reached it was his first record. So I mean, you were playing all the ridiculous clubs. I mean. And it was. Go ahead.
And I'd like to say I have a great memory of the names of those two horn players. We had a trumpet player. His name was David. I cannot remember his last name. and I think the sax player also played flute. I think his name was Harley. I apologize, man. This was 50 years ago.
No. It's okay. I mean, this is who was in the rhythm section with you? Do you remember?
Well, I do remember that because I met. I actually recommended David Brown also joined the band, and he did. He moved out to San Francisco from Macon, and David was the guitar player. I mean, with the bassist who was working with Butch Trucks and Scott Boyer. So David was in the same boat as me. We had been sort of left out of the Allman Brothers and the Southern Rock era at that point. So I'd recommended David to them when they asked me, and so he was the bass player, and the drummer was the fabulous George Raines, who I later on had a lot of chances to play with him because we both moved to Austin in the mid '70s.
So David
and George was a fabulous drummer, and there was also another guitar player there that I didn't know very well. I think it was a friend of Boz's. His name was Doug Simrel, and very talented guy. So that was the whole band, I think.
Were you so David? Because I'm just trying to figure out. Also, I guess this was before that group Cowboy with Scott Boyer, Tommy Talton. That was before that group really got going.
You know, I'm having a hard time recollecting the exact timetable of it, Jake. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I would love you to talk about how your wife. You said your wife loved the Bay Area. What was at that time? There was, I mean, can you talk about your adjustment coming from the psychedelic dungeons of Florida and going into this? It had definitely been overrun pretty heavily by. Domestically, the country, the word was out that it was the love movement, but yet it was still so reasonably priced. There was all this incredible music going on. A lot of it was, and Boz, sometimes he doesn't even, I mean, when you just think about all the acts that were going on out there, was Hot Tuna, Sly Stone, the Grateful Dead, on and on and on. Did you enjoy your time out there, and were you guys playing basically regionally, or did you go on tours as well?
Well, now with Boz, I expected it to really pan out to where we would be doing a lot of major touring, and so that was disappointing to me that we were just seemed to be only in the local clubs, and we did venture over to Lake Tahoe at one point, and also went over to Honolulu at one point.
Wow.
But other than that, it was just we played the Fillmore 3 or 4 times, and the Matrix several times. Keystone Course, all of the other clubs. It's kind of like just the local circuit, And I thought, well, I really thought there would be more to this than that, and so that was a bit of a letdown for me. However, the city of San Francisco was not a letdown. even though it was, there was, it's kind of a lot of it was sort of a dirty place.
Yeah.
There was drug use and people living on the streets and just, regular kind of thing. That big city kind of thing, which I was not used to. But musically, it was a great education for me, and I felt like I learned so much from my time out there. It was fantastic to see the Jefferson Airplane and to see the Grateful Dead and to see Janis Joplin, and I went to see Miles Davis when he did Live at the Fillmore.
Oh my God, are you kidding, dude? This is there's something. Go ahead.
I ran into my friends, the Allman Brothers, who were playing the Fillmore. They came through out there. I think they were on tour with B.B. King. I saw them and
Holy God.
Quick Silver Messenger service and not Tower of Power, not Cold Blood. Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks.
Of course.
Just a few of the names that I can remember at this point, just off the top of my head. It was just a smorgasbord of fantastic musical talent, the likes which I had never seen. It was all, it was an absolute school of West Coast rock. I mean, anything you would want to, it was just so many choices of fantastic music to go see. So I really enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it way more than my wife enjoyed it.
Okay, that's awesome.
She was not a fan of San Francisco. She did like Marin County.
Of course, she liked Marin. Yeah, she loved Marin. Right.
She just, it just wasn't for her, and so she left.
Did you?
And I was so unhappy at that point.
Right.
I stayed around as long as I could because I really liked the band. I liked Boz, and I loved that. I really thought the band was cool, but it seemed like it wasn't really going anywhere, and I didn't want my marriage to break up, So I ended up chasing her back to the East Coast of America about a year and a half or 2 years after I got out there. So
just one final. I wanted to ask you.
San Francisco for me.
No, I did. It's beautiful and it's interesting. Did you wind up making any local music connections there? Did you make friends? There was just. I realized that you weren't. You dug Jimmy Smith and you dug organ music, but there was a place on Sutter Street called Jack's on Sutter, and it would go all night long, and you'd have like Chester Thompson from Tower of Power, and Clifford Coulter coming up from San Jose, and I mean it was like the most insane music during that time. And outside of the Bill Graham stuff, I guess. Did you make any musical friendships or friendships while you were out there?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. I met Doug Somm when I was out there.
Yes,
and he was a fantastic guy. I just loved him. And I met Tracy Nelson, who was also there.
Wow.
And then I got to see Jimmy Smith play at the Jazz Workshop. I met this fantastic jazz band, the Shades of Joy.
Oh my God, that's it, man!
Martin Fierro.
Oh, that's it. Now I know. I can feel Martin's spirit. Yeah.
Shit. And so he was unbelievable. So we became friends, and I ended up going out to a lot of his gigs. He would get me to sit in, and so that was an education for me. I really was not much of a jazzer, and he was so hardcore into it. I mean, that was another learning experience for me.
Dude, that's what it was, Reese. I was like, I have been racking my brain. I'm like, why have I? And it's Shades of Joy. That band was incredible. They had a drummer named Lee Charlton too, who was a great cat. And
I think that was the guy. I think that was his name.
Yeah, I mean, Lee is. I mean, there was so much experimentation.
The bass player was Eddie, and I can't think of his last name, but he was also talented. Very good, very wonderful band. And,
Martin Fierro, man, is one of the nastiest players of all time. I mean, I cannot believe. Essentially, would you say that can you talk about a Bill Graham experience? Not necessarily personally with Bill, but like, did you wind up on one of those? Did your band wind up ever sharing a bill with like a jazz group like Miles or Cannonball or anyone like that?
Well, no. I did want to say one more thing about Martin, and I'll answer your question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In just a second. So I was very shy about playing music with Martin. He was so talented, but it was all hardcore West Coast jazz, which is different than anything I had ever played before. So what he had said was, Reese, you know how to play. You're a great player. Just play music. And that's all. That's all you got to do. Just play music. It is what it'll go where it goes, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna make this work out. And I always remembered him saying that he had that much confidence in me. So
dude, that is so beautiful. That made my day right there.
One of those mentors for me. Now, as far as playing at the Fillmore, we played there twice, I think, and I'm trying to think of who was on the bill with us. And that's
it's all right. You don't need to. The point is that it was that you were there in the crowd seeing Steve Grossman and Dave Liebman doing the live Evil stuff with Miles. I mean, you saw that.
Oh yeah. Now I went out to see a lot of the bands at the Fillmore.
Oh my God!
Not just when I didn't go there just when we played. I would go to see whoever was coming into town. That was a place that I loved to hang out. They had kind of organic food over there at that time that was really tasty for me, and I just liked I thought the vibe there was really cool. So, like I said, what an education, what a musical education is. Go see those guys,
dude. I love that story about Martin Fierro, man. That guy played from his soul, and whatever came out of him was I mean, the stories that he could tell on flute, on horn, his percussion playing was insane. I will tell.
It just flowed out.
Flowing, dude. Flowing.
It's like you wonder where does this come from? It just comes from the universe, and he translates it for us. So it was just a fantastic thing to listen to that guy.
The last thing I want to ask you about the Bay Area is one of the bands that's really saved my soul in the last year or so. I mean, it's just I cannot stop listening to them, and they were huge in the Bay Area. They were an Oakland band, or they had roots in Marin County in Oakland, was the Sons of Champlin. Did you see them ever?
The Sons of Champlin is a band I had heard about.
Bill Champlin being the leader, yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard about them, and they were playing out there during that time, but for some reason I never got to go out and see them.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm going to say it's worth if you want to be a little bit inspired, it's worth going back to a couple of their early albums right when you were out there. Some of the music is just beyond sophisticated. It's just so. I mean, a lot of those bands. I mean, I want you to just talk about that. The Martine comment that as it relates to younger musicians who maybe are not in the academy, they're not in the ivory tower of music, and yet they know they have the gumption to want to play. And when he said to you, just play music, however it comes out, that's been a guiding force for you. But when that first started, I mean, you did have to sort of be very vulnerable at first, where you just had to sort of shut your thinking mind off and let muscle memory go. I just want you to take us through that.
Okay, well, at that time, I was a young player, and I was learning how to play. Like I said to you yesterday, I started pretty late in life with music. I didn't start playing in bands until I was in college, age of 17,
right,
or so. And so at this point, I had only been playing professionally for 4 or 5 years, and so I was still pretty raw to it, but I'd worked with some fantastic musicians, and I really honed my skills to where I thought I could keep up with most people, and really add something, and those years, the late 60s and early 70s, I can't emphasize enough what a creative era of music that was. As people were making great music everywhere and just experimenting and trying new things, and we were all listening to it. And music was important. I mean, everything that you played was important. Everything that you listened to was important. It all added up to this great stew of music. So being in part of the Southern rock thing in Florida, and then to be in the middle of the West Coast sound, the psychedelia, and the creativity in San Francisco, I felt like I just had the best of everything. I was just in the perfect spot, and so I was really rejoicing and growing in music.
I'm curious because I interviewed a cat. I'll have to get his name. And he's a pedal steel player. And he moved. I just want you to talk to the audience about. I cannot think of a cooler place to be in the mid '70s than Austin, Texas. And I just wanted you to talk about how you. I mean, part of the magic of life is timing, and then there's Branch Rickey said, luck is the residue of design, and I feel like on top of your musicality, luck and timing have played a role in your career, and I just wanted you to talk about how you connected with Jerry Jeff, and then ultimately what the vibe was like in Austin, because I mean today I mean again I haven't even really hung out there, but. It's kind of just too blissed out now. Back then, it was like take it away, man.
All right, so I didn't see, had never been to Austin. The last you heard from me, I was in San Francisco in 1971.
Right.
I left Boz's band to try to repair my family life, and ended up in Florida, and sadly that didn't really work out. But I did meet some people along the way. I ran into my old friend Rhino, who was in a band called Captain Beyond, and I went to Los Angeles for about 6 months. Made a record with those guys, but still, that didn't really work out. Ended up back in Florida again, and playing music, cover bands, and country music, top 40 music of the day, and nothing really was going on. My marriage had successfully fallen apart.
I did.
And a friend of mine who was working with Vassar Clements, Vassar was opening shows on a nationwide tour for Jerry Jeff Walker.
I'm sorry. I just want to stop you right there. I just got like goosebumps, dude. I cannot believe that you just mentioned one of my absolute all-time heroes, Vassar Clements, dude. I love that dude. That dude could say 5 words, and they were the most 5 profound words in the world. I love that dude.
He was a great guy, just a fantastic guy. And my friend Dave Perkins, who was playing guitar with him, would jam with Jerry Jeff Walker at the end of the show. Vassar was opening, Jerry Jeff was closing. At the end of the night, they would do The Circle Be Unbroken, and they would get everybody up on stage. And Dave got up there with Jerry Jeff, and apparently Jerry Jeff was impressed. He came to blows with the members of his band, the Los Gonzo band, fired the band, and asked Dave to put a new band together for him.
Whoa.
So Dave is a guy that I had done sessions with in Florida. He had come down to record some of his original songs. And so, yeah, you can call it luck. I was in Florida. I was available. Dave was chosen just out of the randomness of late night jams, second set jams, and I put the band together. Dave remembers me. Do I want to come to Austin? Well, I think so. I think I've had enough of Florida. So this was about 1974, 75. I decided I would go to Austin and check it out. Never been to Austin before. In those days, Austin was a city of just over 100,000 people.
Oh my gosh!
The Capitol building at the end of South Congress there was the tallest building in town. You could see it from as you drove in on I-35.
Wow.
Now it's well over 1 million. It's probably over 2 million, and you can't see the Capitol. It's being swallowed up by all the buildings all around it. But in those days, it was a musical mecca, similar to San Francisco. Not the same, but similar in that there was beautiful music being played in all genres all over the city. There was great country music. There was great Texas swing. There was really good good jazz. There was a reggae band that I used to love to go see. There was salsa bands. And there was great blues. And there was outlaw country scene with Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings and Jerry Jeff Walker, which were ensconced in the Austin scene at that time. So it was terrifically exciting to be a musician there. You felt like you were right in the center of things that are really going on, and that's what it felt like. So I said, "Yeah, this is for me." So I told him that I really wanted to do this and to move to Austin. So I relocated over there, and there's a funny story about our band. Our band getting together. We actually got together in Aspen, Colorado. Jerry Jeff flew all of us out to this ski resort, and that's where we met each other. The first played and rehearsed for this gig out in Aspen, which that's another place I had never been. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, I just want to be clear. You were in Florida, and then Perk just calls you up and told you that Jerry Jeff came to blows with the Gonzo band and fired the whole band and wanted him to put a new band together.
That's exactly what happened.
This is unbelievable. So then, first of all, I want you to talk to me. This is so fascinating because I couldn't ask a better person, although I know you're not steeped in country music per se, but at that time, like today, when I listen to a lot of country music, American country music, a lot of it strikes me as almost worship music. And I'm curious as to when you call it outlaw country, Willie, Waylon, Jerry Jeff, as opposed to what was going on in more mainstream country music. Why was it called outlaw country?
Well, that's a good question. I didn't name it that. That's what it was called. I mean, Billy Joe Shaver was kind of a wild character. Waylon Jennings was kind of a wild guy. Willie Nelson, liked to smoke
herb, yeah.
Weed, and
right. So they were not
as a lot of those country guys did. And of course, Jerry Jeff Walker was this New York folk singer who decided he wanted to be a country singer in Texas, and so he moved down there and changed his name and moved to Texas. It just became something, and that's what it was called. And it felt kind of outlaw-ish because it was not Nashville country music.
There you go.
It was not refined and perfect. And those days they were using what was it called? The Nashville sound, with the backup singers and the steels and the fiddles and everything was perfectly placed in there, and of course the impeccable musicianship of the Nashville.
Oh my God, Norbert Putnam
artists.
And all those cats, yeah,
Chet Atkins. I mean, you name it. That was
insane,
unbelievable musicianship in those records, but there was nothing outlaw about it. It was all sort of perfect, The music that they were making in Texas was not perfect, and what Willie Nelson was playing, what Waylon and definitely what we were doing with Jerry Jeff Walker was not perfect music. It was perfectly.
It was perfectly imperfect.
It had an edge to it. It made you listen to it. It made well, what are they going to do next? And it had a sort of an excitement about it, and it was something new. It was definitely the newest, the new thing in country music, and the world started looking at Texas for music, and so that was unbelievable to be part of that. So I joined that band in 1975.
Well, I want to be clear about something because you described that perfectly with that perfect Nashville sound, but I want you to talk about, like, in terms of the format, like Jerry Jeff Walker, some of the earlier stuff before you joined him. It's just so everything that he did. I've heard live shows of his. He's just a hauntingly beautiful, amazing dude. But in terms of the structure or the unpredictability of that band live, where people wanted to know where you were going to go. Were you leading the head of the tune, and certain songs were you improvising? I mean, you weren't just playing 3 or 4 minute radio friendly hits live.
No, we were not. The Los Gonzo band, terrific band. They were more organized than us. They had been with Jerry Jeff Walker for several years at that point. When we got there, it became sort of a jam on every song. Dave would stretch out at the end. Tell you the guys in the band. It was Dave Perkins on lead guitar, Bobby Rambo on lead guitar, Leo LeBlanc on steel, Tomas Ramirez on saxophone, Ron Cobb on bass, Freddie Kirch on drums, and myself. And the thing that we did different, that it was a bigger band than the Los Gonzo band, but also a more muscular band. It's like we would take a song like L.A. Freeway or Dancing Naked in the Hill Country Rain, and we would play the song, but then we would just drive it, and then it would release into this unbelievable solos at the end of it, and that didn't happen with the other guys.
No, absolutely not.
It was more of a country thing with them, and for us, it was more of a rock thing. I think that's the way I would describe it. Most of the Jerry Jeff hits came with the Los Gonzo band. The 5 records that I made with him during those 5 years that I was with him, they were successful, but they were not really a lot of what you would call hit records. But they were successful, and we toured every state in the country, and we did a lot of opening shows for Willie Nelson. Got to know those guys who were terrific to us, and it was really another step in my education as a musician. First being in the middle of Southern rock in Jacksonville, then in the middle of just 2 years after the Summer of Love in San Francisco. Now I'm at this burgeoning country music explosion in Austin, Texas, and with this outrageous blues scene that's going on. And I fell in love with the blues when I was in Austin. That's when I really started to turn that way, to turn away from the sort of Americana countryish thing, and say, well, I think the blues is really what speaks to me the most, and so that's the way it worked out for me.
Dude, so much going through my head. I think I'm going to go on a limb here, and maybe I'm wrong, but I have the album, and I'm just going to be honest that I haven't really listened through it thoroughly, but my favorite track is on there, and I just sort of always look at the record, and I'm not sure why I haven't spun it, but after our connection now, I have to believe that going back to Jerry Jeff's time in folk music in New York City, did he develop a relationship with Carole King at that time? Is that why ultimately she came and recorded down in Austin?
Not that I was aware of.
I'm taking a chance. I'm going on a limb.
She had a contract, and I think it was a budgetary concern. I think she had a one record left to fulfill her contract obligation, and I think it was on her dime to record it, or maybe they had given her a budget and she wanted to see if she could do it somewhere there's a little bit more economic sense than in New York. But I think she also was enthralled with the kind of country music that was going on in Austin. And I think it was sort of a surprise when she contacted Jerry Jeff's manager, Michael Brodsky, and said that she wanted to come down and record with Jerry Jeff Walker's band. Now, there is a little bit of, when that happened, there was, it made me think, like, well, is she really aware that he has a new band, that this is not the Los Gonzo band?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure that she was aware of that or not. She may have been, but she did a record with the Jerry Jeff Walker band, and it was a blast. We had a great time, and my friend Dave Perkins, just shined on that.
Dude,
on
Dave
that
Perkins, man,
record.
are you still? I need to talk to that cat. Is he still with us?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
In
I mean,
fact,
this is the most. Yeah.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
We're having a reunion of that band, of the Jerry Jeff Walker band, in Austin. Oh, when is it?
When is it, dude? I'm coming. I'm coming, dude.
It's coming up. Let me check the calendar.
Text. I mean, dude, if I can make it, I will. Dude, this is the most emotional thing. I mean, who is everybody in that band still kind of around besides Jerry Jeff? I mean, because I love finding these. I mean, you got.
And I'll tell you, when Jerry Jeff passed a couple of years ago, it hit us hard.
Yeah.
He was a loss.
He was a mountain of a human. I mean, he was. I mean, he just was one of those.
Such a wild card. He lived the life that he wanted to lead. You know, and it just rubbed off on all of us. You know, we're going to do what we want to do. You know, and he was just that spirited kind of guy.
Freaking love that guy, and also honestly, he came from your generation of so influenced by a myriad of different sort of auditory learning, and he just was able to tell. He could tell a story all the time. It was just so. There were people that could do that and just do it so well. And he did it, and yeah, he was his own cat. But I do not want to forget this because I feel like I've seen you. You know, your name pops up on albums sometimes, and I feel like your discography online is not always completely complete. When you were in L.A., doing Sufficiently Breathless, that was the album, right?
Yes.
Yes. Did you actually record on? Did you do any more studio work when you were out there?
No, it was pretty dry for work.
You guys had like a budget, so you were living together or something?
We were all three of them lived out there. All the three major guys in the band, Rod, Rhino, and Lee, all had homes out there in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And the other three of us shared an apartment. And then I moved in with Lee Dorman for a little while, and we'd gone up to Sausalito to record that at the record plant there, and then back to Los Angeles, and we had a big album release, and then nothing really happened. It was shocking. I didn't expect that. But our guitar player Rhino was having some substance issues, and possibly they felt like he wasn't really
trustworthy. Ready
to do anything.
So you never did. You never. I mean, it was pretty locked down. But I just want you to. This is really important, especially for younger cats. Like, what kind of ultimately, when you just take the Carol, even the Jerry Jeff record you made, regardless of whether there were any radio friendly hits or anything or things that made it. Can you just talk about like how the kind of studio that you were in and how you were mic'd and ultimately, because here's the thing, Reese, like when I listened to albums from really before I was born, which was 1978, I mean, there really wasn't an efficiency model on how to record a record until about 1976. So you had engineers like Dan Healy, you mentioned Doug Somm and Tracy Nelson. I mean, he did all that stuff with Mercury for Smash. But there was a lot of experimenting going on. And what I love the most about certain periods of records, like the Loan Me a Dime, is that there was what we call good leakage. There was a room sound. And that had everything to do with the miking of the room. And I kind of wanted you to talk about, for you, what was optimal for Reese Wynans? Because nowadays everything, I mean, the drum kit, for instance, everything's mic'd. Every part of the drum is mic. And before, there was something intoxicating about that room sound in the recording process. And I just wanted you to talk about your optimal recording. Not modern day, because technology is way too up right now. But just in that time, what was your ideal miking setup?
Well, in Austin, despite all of the wonderful music that was going on out there, and the fantastic musicians and songwriters who were just prolific during that era, there was not an overwhelming presence of great recording studios.
Yeah.
there was only a couple of places that you could record. The first Jerry Jeff record that I made, we actually hired Malcolm Harper with his studio in a bus to come out to Jerry Jeff Walker's house.
Oh, this is I love those bus recordings.
We ran some wires into the room. He had an upright piano in there that I played, and they had their amps and around the room. And the drums were in the next room over, so where they wouldn't be as prevalent on the in the open mics of the guitars and things. So that was just that particular record had a particular back porch sound that I really dug, and that's all Malcolm Harper's expertise. And as far as the mics that he used, I couldn't tell you the mics that he used. I really don't remember.
Yeah, no, it's not even about. Yeah.
Now, if you ever have a chance to speak with Dave Perkins, which I'll be happy to give you his contact, by the way.
Sure.
He may remember that better than I do, because I think he ended up with that bus that Malcolm used for that first Jerry Jeff Walker record.
Dude, I love that was the hip. I cannot believe that. And do you remember the name of that record? I got to find that record immediately.
Contrary to Ordinary.
How perfect is that? You know.
Yeah.
So explain. In that band, who's still left? I mean, who is everyone going to participate in that tribute to Jerry Jeff concert?
Yes, and it's we're going to be doing some Jerry Jeff Walker songs, and we're going to do some other songs too. The whole band is still with us, with the exception of our beloved steel player Leo, who passed a few years ago.
Wow, dude! I mean, this is the nastiest band I've ever heard in my life, dude. This is
the drummer, Fred Kirch, has got some sort of a museum of Austin music that he's put together, and we all wanted the idea. We've been wanting to play together, and he said, "Come down here. We'll put on a program at the museum. It'll be a fundraiser for." See what we can get going for that building and for the exhibits, and it all seemed like a great idea.
Well, listen, Reese, I would actually love. Are you going back on the road with Bonamassa soon? When are you back on the road?
We're doing a Telluride. I think it's the Bluegrass Festival or the Jazz Festival or something like that next weekend. Then we're going out to Los Angeles to record a record with Larry McRae, and then after that, I'm going to Austin. I'm going to spend a week in Austin, and that's when we're going to do that band reunion.
So the memory on my recorder is about to run out. I just maybe, do you think we could do one more installment next week before you hit the road?
Well, I'm kind of getting swamped up, Jake.
No problem.
Let me see what things look like.
No worries. Just do me a favor and text me.
Actually, I'm rehearsing with Dave here at the house next Wednesday. If you want, I could ask Dave if he would like to participate.
I would love. That would be great. I would love to talk to Perk. Frankly, that band is great. And then also let me know.
He might have some insight to you about the recording techniques that you were curious about.
Reese, man, text me the date of that show too. I definitely would love to try to.
That show is going to be September 28th.
All right, I'll see what I can do about that. But either way, we'll get another chance to do another. At some point, we'll catch a hang again, man. It was like it was really an honor to talk to you, man. And let me know about Perk. I'd love to connect with that cat.
All right. That's going to be next Wednesday, September 11th. So let me see if I'll give him a call and see if he's up for a few minutes with you. So let me see what I can do. And Jake, keep in touch, man. We'll see if we can.
We'll get it together, man. This is just the beginning. But I appreciate your time and have a ball and be safe. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Jake. Take care, man.
Later, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.